Right. He said, "What's this wrong? This people looks like they're stepping over bread or something, and they're throwing bread around. They must be affluent. There's no need to and they're not treating bread properly." So he got angry at them, and that actually caused the famine.
Right.
So being that he was the one that caused the famine.
Why couldn't they just tell them though? Because there's a famine, go out to the marketplace. Why did you?
Because what he saw, they were throwing bread around. That itself is a sin, whether regardless of the situation. And his first knee-jerk reaction was, these people are very, very greedy. They have, and they're throwing it around. Anyways, but the story, let me just give you quickly what it says here. In terms of what it meant that if he would take off a second shoe, the world would be destroyed. Where is it? If you remove your other shoe, so here is the Marsha, one of the commentaries says, Marsha suggests that after bringing enough rain to end the drought and famine by removing one shoe, Rabbi Yehuda wished to remove the other shoe and bring more rain to restore the prosperity that existed before. He was told, however, that after causing heaven to alter radically the course of nature, and it was his fault. When you cause Hashem to alter the laws of nature, which he very much cherishes, then what it means is, he says further, once you do that, it was not proper for him to ask that it be done a second time, when such intervention was not critical. In other words, what he meant to say is, nature, I created nature. You want me to just to destroy the rules of nature? That's called destroying Hashem's world. It means the world will disappear. It meant, you want me to destroy the rules of nature, which I set into motion so that the mitzvahs that we do should be done even within the laws, within the parameters of nature, not to have to impose upon nature. You're trying to do away with all that. You're destroying my world. If you need it for rain, one thing, but when you don't really need it anymore, you want to bring back the world to its beyond the prosperity that it had before, that's already asking too much. Now you're asking, now there's no need for it. That's one of there are other answers.
One more question. Why couldn't he take his own shoes off?
Mm-hmm.
Where I read it said Rav Kahana took his shoes off for him. Why couldn't he take his own shoes off? Yes.
Take a look at that.
While we do not force people to drink, that is fresh water.
1 second, I'll get to the water in a second.
Advisable bracha shahako.
We don't force people to drink here.
We don't force people to say brachas.
He was very weak. He wasn't very well. Yeah, he was. In fact, he was very sick. That's another possibility that he would be. It was hard for him to even remove a shoe. That's how he wasn't well. That's because he was weak and not well. And fasting would make him even weaker.
Also, why couldn't they tell him he was a fan and why did he have to see it for himself?
Why do they have to? They told him. Yeah.
How he sent him out to the marketplace.
Well, how should I send them? Through Facebook? How should I send them a
So
message?
just kind of nudged him in the
Obviously,
marketplace
WhatsApp.
or something with Kahana, and they told him, well, go out.
But before he had a chance to, see really what's going on, he saw that there's no famine there. They're playing around with bread. You don't do that when you're suffering. Ask the people who were in the Holocaust, if they would have done that. So it bothered him very much that, they're asking for. He heard about this, he heard the news or some kind of famine going on. Famine? This is called famine?
I see.
So let's deal with.
Thank you very much.
You're very
I was
welcome.
wondering about that for a couple months.
So let's this is not ready. I'm not ready for the new piece yet. We have to continue with the tefillah. I want to tell you a story. I actually heard a very powerful story, not about the Rebbe, but a story, chinuch. It's an amazing story. And the story I just heard this week from Rabbi Jacobson. Yeah, I didn't hear it I heard it on one of his recordings, one of his here. Yeah, of course, we all know. And he said the following: some businessman in Eretz Yisrael, in Israel, was going through very, very hard times. His business shut down. He went into a tremendous amount of debt, and he couldn't afford to pay any bills. But that's not the end of it. What happened afterwards was, in addition to not being able to pay bills, he was threatened that he doesn't pay this certain debt that he owed certain shady individuals, he would lose his life. And he would lose everything, his house, they threatened his family, threatened everything. And it was all piling up, these tzarot, one after the other, piling up. He couldn't take it anymore. And things just got worse and worse and worse. And he decided to do the inconceivable. Huh?
What is it?
He decided to do the inconceivable. Abedet nafsho. Commit suicide. He mamish couldn't take life anymore. Anyways, he decided exactly when, on this and this day, he's going to go to an area where there's a cliff and end all the problems. On his way to that uneventful plan of his, of taking his life away, his wife asked him, "Oh, can you bring to our son, he's learning in yeshiva, can you, on the way to work, whatever, can you bring this package to our son," whatever his name was, who learns in yeshiva. Okay, so I guess on the way to his, he'll pass by his son. Maybe it's a good idea to say goodbye to his son. The final farewell time he'll see his son. It's very sad. He goes to the yeshiva and finds the exact location where the son was. And the yeshiva comes out. He asks, this is for, mention the son's name. And the Rosh Hashiva took it. "Are you the taxi driver or are you the father?" "I'm the father." "You're the father? Wow. Ashreinu, ashrecha, ma tov chelkecha. You are so lucky to have a child like this. You don't know what a gift you have, what a diamond you have. I've never in all my years of being Rosh Hashiva had a student like this. He excels not only in learning, but in midas taylis. He's such a mensch. Everyone befriends him. Everyone loves him. And he's so matzliach. He's like posik pum megirsa means he doesn't stop learning. Only do a favor for another person. He's your prize. You're so lucky to have a child like that. God bless you. What do you think was on his mind? And I am going to give this all away. Never let my child become a yasin, my wife an almana, and destroy the family because of my personal problems. So here you see that Rosh Hashiva probably never found out what he actually accomplished. By praising your students, you never know what can be the result. Mamish, saving a life. I'll throw in something else. It's nothing to do with this, but I remember when I was growing up, I never grew up, but when I was trying to grow up, there was a bacher who was very, very depressed and was very seriously thinking about ending his life. And we tried to talk him out of it. And the more we tried to talk him out of it, the worse it got. What do you do when you have a situation like that? The Rebbe to the rescue, right? We told him, why, you know what? If that's what you want. That's your life, your decision. I'm not going to try to stop you. You see that it's not our business. We can't stop you. We wish you wouldn't, but this is your life. But you know what? Before you say goodbye, how about saying goodbye to the Rebbe and telling the Rebbe your plans? Okay, that's a good idea.
Was here?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll do that. Now I'm going to ask you a question in a minute. He goes into the Rebbe and tells the Rebbe what his plans are. What do you think the Rebbe said? What do you say? Malka. What does Malka say?
Oh,
No one will ever guess.
exactly. That's why I don't even want to guess.
Is it that ashrecha because you have a challenge that I never had?
Okay, what do you say? No, that's an answer to somebody's another problem.
He gave him $1 and gave him a bracha and
What?
gave him a piece of honey cake.
Okay, what do you say?
I say, because you're saying it's something that you would never expect me to say, I would.
I didn't say that. Okay, I actually, okay, go ahead.
She said nothing.
The answer is the Rebbe didn't say a word. The Rebbe started crying like a child. He saw that his life meant so much to a Lubavitcher Rebbe, the giant of the generation. Little me makes the Rebbe cry if I, God forbid, end my life. He said, wow, I must be important. I must be indispensable. The world can't go on without me. The Rebbe knows what's going on in Lamaila. Hashem is crying through him. And he sees what Hashem sees. Look, I created you. The world can't last without every single individual. They're all indispensable. You know what that means? Indispensable? Every man, woman, and child is part of a gigantic puzzle. Everyone has to contribute what nobody else. Everyone has what to contribute that no one else can. So I want to just, before we go to the mimer, one more interesting phenomenon. That is, this part that I just mentioned about this last thing, I didn't hear from Rabbi Jacobson, that I firsthand. But this part I did hear. There's a Mishnah in Tractate Rosh Hashana, I think it's Daf Chav Gimel 23, that talks about the cross-examining of the witnesses, interrogation, shalot v'chakirot, el ha'idim, on the witnesses that claim they saw the moon on this and this night, and they want to proclaim that it's Rosh Chodesh. So they were asked many questions, astronomical questions, and then one kind of obvious question to see if they're just making up a story or they really actually saw the moon. When you saw the moon, what direction was the sun? Was the sun shining at the sliver, the light sliver, the tiny little sliver of light, or the dark side of the moon? If they would say it shined on the dark side of the moon, you know they're making up stories. It's not possible. The sun, if the sun is facing something, there's light. The sun can't face you and there's darkness. The sun's view is, whenever the sun is staring at you, there's brightness, there's light. So every teacher, every Magid Shir, every mentor, mashpia, is supposed to be like the sun. That it looks at its students, it only sees light, doesn't see the darkness. It doesn't see the pigimot, the dark side of the moon. The sun never saw the dark side of the moon. It can't. By definition, it will light up that side. So if you're a shemesh, if you're a light, a beacon of light shining, your students, those that are following you, they will also be lit up. You can't, because you see only their light. You don't see their dark side. You see their light side. And that's so important to focus on the light side. I don't mean light. The light is supposed to be heavy. The bright side, the radiant side of every single Jew that shines. And, some mashpiyim are like the sun, and some maybe not yet. You have to work on that. See the quality of the radiance of every single student, because there is. This I heard also from Rabbi Jacobson, this part. So we cross-examine the witnesses. If you want to make it Rosh Chodesh, you want to make it a new month, start a new life, you have to always look at your followers, at your shvoyim, those that are under your guidance, with a shining light. Good word. Yeah. Okay, we're talking about tefillah. I want to ask a question before we get to the mimer. In Yiddish, I think I once mentioned this in one of the classes over the year. Malka has a photographic memory, she might remember it. What does the word davening actually mean? I mean, what language is that, davening? To daven, is that Hebrew? Is that Bivrit?
Yiddish.
It is Hebrew? Well, who's the expert in Hebrew? No. Davening. Litbalel. So what's the word? Where does it come from? Yiddish?
Yiddish, no?
Yiddish? German? Go ask a German. Did you daven? Wow. What? Was? You won't know what you're talking about. It's not a Yiddish word either.
Right, people say pray.
Huh?
People say pray.
In English.
So what does that mean?
That's what I'm asking. What is the word? Where does it come? What's the etymology of the word daven?
Connection.
How does daven mean connection? What language? French?
I don't know.
Swahili?
Is it actually Aramaic?
So one of the answers is that it's Aramaic, and it's a shortcut of de'avuhom, the davening that comes from our forefathers.
Oh.
Because we daven Shachris Mincha and Ma'ariv due to Avraham, Shachris, Yitzchak Mincha, Yaakov Ma'ariv. De'avuhom, daven. Say it fast, it becomes daven. So that's a good answer. Or it's a Hebrew. Is it Bivrit? Dovev. Dovev means to move your lips, as opposed to the non-Jews. They don't articulate. They don't speak out there. They just meditate, and they don't daven out loud or even move their lips when they pray. Maybe they do, but it's silent. Silent prayer by them is the ultimate prayer when you're concentrating. And we mentioned about Torah learning. It's also about davening, that it's very important to utter the words of davening. If you thought about your whole davening and you didn't daven one word, you haven't fulfilled your obligation. And if you davened every word, but didn't think about anything, you have fulfilled your obligation. Not in the best way, but at least you davened. So it's very important to dovev, to move your lips, move your mouth. Dovev sifsei yeshanim says, to move the lips of those that are no longer living. It says when you repeat Dvar Torah from someone who passed away, that person's mouth starts moving in the grave.
Whoa.
That's what it says.
Where is it?
In the Talmud, Gemara.
Whoa.
Don't open up the grave to see. What? When you review the words of a great person, that person's mouth starts moving in the grave. Whatever that means.
Also, when we learn Mamar, we need to repeat.
Of course. By the way, the Rebbe Shah, we all know that his grave was moved after 20 years because of the situation in Russia. They were uprooting graves, and they found his body 100% complete.
What?
His body was complete, Ki'ilu Yasham.
When?
20 years after he passed away. They have to move his kever.
All this.
Yeah, I'm the same, but we actually saw it.
Yeah.
They say about Habakkuk, Hanavi, that I think the Arabs wanted to dig up his grave, and when they saw that he's home, they got so scared they put him right back.
What they saw?
Habakkuk, Hanavi.
Yeah.
They saw he's coming Shalem, Lachrei Alpaim Shana. But you know what? It was a chassid. I just passed away a couple of years ago. Edelman from Morocco. Body was complete after many months later. Body was 100% complete. It probably wasn't. It's a chassid of the Rebbe, but probably on a high madrega. I know my brother-in-law told me about him. Brother-in-law, not a chassid. Likes to pick on every fault that he sees in Chabad. If every Chabad would be like him, I would become a Chabadnik. That's what he said. Such an Edel. His name was Edelman. Such an Edel, so refined. And a Talmud Chacham also. So wonderful. I only wish I would be like that. Now you see, this is probably some kind of tzaddik. Was not a regular person. Okay. What else I want to say? We're talking about davening in the Mamar right now. You missed it. You missed the beginning of the last class. We're talking about davening. And hopefully we're not going to see you next week, huh? You're making me cry. Okay. Let's cast down the Mamar. Pass this down. You have them? Any more? So I think on page 34, 33. We started on the bottom of 33, and we just started talking about how dibur is very important, not just for intellectual activity or emotional activity. It stimulates your heart and stimulates your brain, but it also stimulates your neshama. That when you're davening, your neshama is now aroused with a feeling of closeness to Hashem as you're thinking and meditating. And we talked about the meditating of Yesh Miyayin, the creation of ex nihilo, creation of Yesh Miyayin, and we went into and he explained there's the wonders of Yesh Miyayin. So let me just review a little bit what we spoke about in the other class. Most of you missed. Yesh Miyayin, what does it mean, Yesh Miyayin? Nothing means absolutely nothing, not even a potential of existence. God creates the potential. So what was there before he created? Nothing. No possibility of existence existing. Non-existence. I mentioned to you, if someone were to say, I saw non-existence, you put him in a Meshuggahim house. He belongs in he needs a facility. Because it's even crazier to say I saw nothingness than to say I saw a square circle. A square circle, at least we know what squares are, we know what circles are. Or if you say, I actually saw 2 and 2 is 5. Okay, that's crazy. But at least we know what 2 and 2 is, and we know what 5 is. But to say that I saw nothingness, it's not possible. When you say I saw, you can only see something. You can make believe that it's nothing, but it's not absolute nothingness. Zelo makom panui, zelo makom, zelo shum davar. Nothing. So that itself, like, wow is the mind. From absolute no possibility of existence, God created something. That would be much more than saying, by learning here and using our heads, and there's a lot of thoughts in our mind, that will bring some food on the table. What does thought in your mind have to do with bringing a potato on the table? That's how weird.
Potatoes.
Okay, I just
It
picked one
always comes
example.
back to potatoes. We love that.
So that sounds weird. What is a thought? Ma hakesher ben seichel tapuch adama. One thing's not going to cause the other. Well, guess what? Before the world was created, non-existence is further away from existence than a dvar seichel is from a potato, because they're both creations. A concept is also created. A concept is not divine. It's a thought that's in your mind. But thoughts don't turn into potatoes, turn into food. Okay, you don't like potatoes, I'm sorry.
I'm loving this.
Okay, so yesh mi'ayin. So then we also mentioned something else about yesh mi'ayin. The wonders are like this. On the one hand, for nothingness, because even after Hashem creates us, we didn't change to becoming something. Just like when something is suspended in the air, you throw a ball in the air, and for a few seconds it's hanging in the air, then it comes down. While it's hanging, for those few seconds, the ball became a flying ball. No, it was never a flying ball. It was your koyach that was lifting it up, that was holding it. It never changed its nature. Even while it was happening, nothing changed. If that's true about a kadur, about a ball, which is not so crazy for a ball to fly up on its own, it's much crazier to imagine non-existence existing. And that's what we are. We're be'etzem, essentially non-existent, but we're existing because God creates that phenomenon. If that being the case, then we need him to be involved every second of our existence because we don't make any sense. He didn't just transfer nothing into something. While we're something, we're still nothing. And we can't, that's our default state. Default state is that nothing can exist besides God. If he creates us, that doesn't mean that now we've become independent, we're a real existence. Our existence is still purely an extension of God's power, but nothing more than that. Take that away and we cease to exist. So Hashem has to be constantly involved in creation every second. Yet, in order for him to create the world that we're in, he has to withdraw himself. Because if there's too much godliness, he reveals himself, then we can't exist. That blows us out of existence. The godliness will drown worldliness out of existence. So Hashem has to go through a tzimtzum and contract and hide, withdraw. So which is it? He's removing himself or involving himself? Both of them simultaneously. And that's something the mind can't fathom. These are the wonders of creation of Yesh Mi'ayin that he's giving you food to think about. Then we talk about Hashgacha Pratis, after Hashem created the world and continues to create the world. There's also incredible, look how he conducts, everything is so orderly. The sun comes up, the stars, the galaxies, how far are our stars away from here? Go figure, how big are the stars? The sun is so much bigger than the earth. And the sun is tiny compared to some of the stars. And go figure how big the universe is. And where does the universe end? Endless. But it's not endless. But in our mind, it's endless. And every single speck, what's going on the moon right now, is B'Hashgacha Pratis. Every moment of existence, everything is supervised. And it's not just supervised as, no, every detail figures into the purpose of creation and had to happen at this moment. Wow. Imagine having, keeping in mind every single thought of every single human being, and every single animal, every single creature, and being involved in every domain, every inanimate matter, which also has a chayis, by the way. Besides the fact that it has the power that the stone is in existence, it also exists in a certain way. It's hard, there's a certain texture to it. That's also coming from God. Every detail of the stone is also divinely originates. There's nothing besides him. Start thinking about this. Give a try. Think. Oh. But I don't want to bother myself saying it. I love to think. It's just so much fun to concentrate, think, like the Arizal. Just let's go into a different world. So he says that's a good beginning. That's a good beginning. But then it's very important to take this powerful meditation and the words that you see in the davening that embody this whole, long, prolonged meditation. Say the words that carry those thoughts, and it will carry you to a place you couldn't go without it. How will it carry you? Meir or Liki. You won't only be having an intellectual experience of something holy, but the holiness that's within that intellectual process of thinking. Not just, again, it won't only be an intellectual experience. You'll experience the elokus in the intellect. You're contemplating about, unlike in the secular world, if you're contemplating on some mathematical equation, okay, or scientific theory, so it's the brain, it's the use of the brain is what you're experiencing. But you don't have, a connection to the stars if you're learning astronomy. You're connecting yourself to the understanding, the logic of what you're studying. You get the logic, but not the object of what the logic is about. When you're davening, you actually get more than just very deep thoughts in your mind, which is also wowing. You get the orally key, a feeling of godliness in the intellectual experience shines an orally key that you didn't have prior to. The orally key was camouflaged in your intellectual experience. And that comes out in the open, and we'll see later on, because Dibur arouses a part of your neshama that was never available, never accessible. And when your neshama is on fire, you see things you couldn't see without that. But it takes speech to trigger that part of your neshama, to awaken it. So while you're thinking, it's just your thoughts. Very nice. You're a nice thinker, and you're smart, and you can think all you want. But the elokus in the thought is missing until you actually verbalize those words that carry and embody those thoughts. Let's see it inside here. And we went through it already Tuesday. Let's go through it again quickly. So on page 33 on the bottom, true, tefillah is very important, but tefillah, the words of tefillah will only help you if you had thought about these meditations before you speak. Don't rely on the words of tefillah to get you anywhere if you just sit back and let your thoughts drift off and have no meditation. Just open the siddur and start davening, and not get you anywhere. These are dead words. Words are like a body to a soul. If you have a soul, you put a soul into that body, then the body will take you places. But you must invest thoughts into the words of davening you're saying. And the thoughts and the words should match. So we'll see later what happens. I don't know enough. I don't have that much knowledge to have all these incredible ideas in my mind. The rabbi just mentioned some of my modern chassidus, but I don't know myself. All I know is I just know just the main meaning of the words. I could translate that in English, maybe. I have an English sitter here. I know what I'm saying. We'll soon see about that. But right now he's talking about if you want to have some kind of gain in dibur of tefillah, you first have to have something in your mind up here. The dibur has to be the kavanah in English. Now the utterance of the prayers must be accompanied by meditation. Then the etzem adibur detevus hatfilah, with the very actual uttering of the words, nirgash ha'or benafsha yosem yabakavana. The light of the prayers, the light, not the intelligence, but the light within that intelligence is felt in one's soul more than through meditation alone. In other words, when a person meditates upon godly concepts, like for example, the part of the davening called Psuki de Zimra, that's like after Baruch Sha'amar, before Baruch. He contemplates the topic of the creation of the world, both the wonders of the creation, meaning of Yesh Miyayin, of the world, how they got to be created, and how do we refer to the world? What type of existence are they? Are they really in existence now, or are they just really non-existence, existing because of God's power? And then also the method in which they are. This is after we discuss the wonders of creation. What about all the incredible things that are happening in the world after Hashem creates the world? So what I didn't mention here, the Bashir B'Sheva shall call Hanivroim. Every single creation sings to Hashem. The sun, it sets in the west, goes from east to west because the Shekhinah is in the west. So that's why the Kodesh HaKadoshim was in the most western part of the Beis Hamikdash. Shekhinah B'Mayra says the reason why the sun sets to the west, it's bowing to its creator. The sun has a certain mazel that causes it to be completely, subservient to its creator, and it also sings a song we can't hear. Special people can hear it. The moon has its song, the sun has its song, the stars have songs, every animal, everything has songs. And the Arizal knew all they heard them. He was able to tell you exactly what they're saying. Yeah.
Why did frogs say Rosh?
Why what?
Why did frogs say Rosh?
I can't hear you. I just can't hear you.
Yeah,
I can't hear you.
in the Parashah,
Yeah.
say the frog.
Yeah.
What the frog said.
Why do you want to know about frogs? I
Because I was reading and
don't remember what the frogs
they
say.
say Rosh it's like, huh?
Good question.
Huh?
I was never a frog. I don't remember. Maybe I was. I just don't remember.
You could ask Arizal, he could tell you.
If the Arizal will be here, he will tell you exactly why they're singing, what they're saying. And he can tell you if this frog is a gilgul from a certain person who was neshama. The Arizal had that special power of detecting souls inside animals. And he knew exactly how to talk with them. And they talked back.
Was it
I mean-
like Shlomo Haba who could just stop
Yeah,
shots of animals? Is it the same thing or is it the soul inside?
I guess that both. He also had palm. He had the power of reading your palm. He had everything. He knew he knew what's going on. He knew exactly who you were before, and he knew exactly why you came down again. What your purpose of this world, of why you're here
It's
again.
interesting because I'm reading out like his inner circle,
Yeah.
his clique. And for some of the rabbis, he's like, no, you can't join it. And it's not that they weren't righteous and kind of people.
Yeah.
He was like, you don't need to learn Kabbalah. You already did that.
Yeah,
Focus on writing.
he was a contemporary of the Yosef Karo. They were together, and the Alshich, Moshe Alshich. You know the story of Moshe Alshich. There's a couple stories. Moshe Alshich. He tells the story about the Beis Yosef. I think it's a Moshe Alshich. Whenever the Arizal would talk his Kabbalah, the Moshe Alshich would fall asleep. And he felt that your neshama is not for this part. Your neshama is for a different level of learning. And that's why you keep falling asleep. He said, so I guess if anyone sleeps here, you know why. He said that once Ramesha Alsh was giving 100 reasons, 100 different times that a love unfolds Yaakov. And then Arizal started smiling. And he saw someone in the shul who was Lavan actually appeared. I don't know if anyone saw him, but Arizal able to see, like we can't, but he's able to see that Lavan was there shaking his head. Got it right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Another story they tell with Arizal and Yosef, it's also a subject of the Mamar, obviously, is that there was Parshas Chayesara, and the Alshich was giving his drasha. He was a very great darshan and phenomenal questions. He asked 50 questions and one answer to answer all 50. When he got to the highlight of his drasha, the best part, the answer, all of a sudden, the Arizal, who always came to listen to him, and all his chassidim, all his followers were there, includes the Chaim Vital and all the great tzaddikim who were like, in the high heavens, were all there listening to him. The whole city was there. Everyone came. As soon as he got to the best part, the Arizal gets up and walks out. It's disrespectful. And when he walked out, his Talmidim walked, everyone. When the Arizal and his Talmidim walked out, everyone walked out. And he couldn't finish his Rosh. So he felt like, I must have said something very wrong. Maybe it was like heresy. And I have to ask for a tikkun, rectification of my soul for saying such a thing. So he came to the Arizal, he begged the Arizal to tell him what was the reason for his leaving in the middle of the drasha. Was the most important part, the answers. What did I say that was so wrong? Was it apikursis? Was it heresy? Was it, no, chas v'sholom, he says. It was phenomenal. What you were saying was mamish Torah Sinai. So why did you leave? Because I sensed. You have to understand, it wasn't just us that were here. I sensed the malachim. Malachi Asharas also came down. And you know who else was here? Ephraim, the one who sold, the guy who sold, Ephraim Achiti, who sold the Noras Machpeh with Avram Avinu, he was also there. Avram and Sarah were there. As soon as you got this feeling of self-satisfaction, which is a little bit of slight, refined, but subtle arrogance, they couldn't, Malachim can't tolerate that. The Neshamas can't tolerate that. Avram left, Sarah left, the Malachim left. The only one who stayed was Ephraim. I didn't want to be in the same shul with Ephraim alone. As long as Avram and Yitzchak, Avram and Sarah are there, and all one thing. But as soon as they left, I had to also leave. So that meant that he sensed what no one else could sense. The result is
He
left the
in
shul.
the room alone with Ephraim.
What?
So he left.
He didn't want to be alone with Ephraim. No.
But he left the other rabbi alone with Ephraim.
Mm-hmm.
He left the other rabbi alone with Ephraim.
But that was the other rabbi's fault. He should not have.
Yeah, don't be
You have
arrogant.
very high expectations when you're living in the Arizal shul. He actually said, I'm going to bring down the Neshamas. He had an all-star cast of Aliyahs. Avram got the first Aliyah, Yitzchak the second Aliyah, Yaakov the third Aliyah, Moshe the fourth Aliyah, Aaron the fifth Aliyah, and David and Shlomo, I think, the sixth, seventh Aliyah. Yosef, David, and Shlomo, 8 Aliyahs. A shul. Yamad, Rab Moshe ben Amram. How's that?
Fantasy
Okay.
football has nothing on Torah.
Let's go back. So some meditates on the shir v'shevach, on the song and praise of all the nivroim. They all have a shira, a perek shira, like you mentioned. That's the second part. That's the part of a davening. That's a psuki de zimra. Then we go to B'virchas Kriyas Shema. During the part of a davening called the brachas of Shema, after Baruch before Shema, to never rung in the ladder of prayer, as we mentioned on Tuesday, to never stage in your davening as you're trying to get to this Shemona Esrei, which is the pinnacle, the highlight of the davening, the summit, the highest point. In Birchas Kriyas Shema, B'Shir V'Shevach U'Bitul HaMalachim, we discuss what? We discuss the bitul of the selflessness of the angels. And we mentioned on Tuesday, why do we talk about angels? Who cares about the angels? And we answered because we're trying to impress upon our Nefesh Bahamis to wake up and get excited about Hashem. So Psuki de Zimra got him a little bit surprised. You mean every single taiva that I have in my life, all is thanks to God? Every single thing that's going on, the sun, the moon, and everything that I can imagine, all my fun that I'm having, it's all godliness? Wow. I would have known, I would have had some more interest in him. But then he says, but you know what? I like to stay the way I am. I don't want to break away from my roots. I'm an animal. Animals like to have fun, instinct. We don't go by this idealism of godliness. It sounds right intellectually, but emotionally, I'm not there. Okay, so we tell him, I guess what? Your own peers, your source are animals. You're angels. What do you think angels are? Spiritual animals. That's where you come from. That's who you are. The animal soul of every Jew is an angel, Lamaila. And what is your angel? What are those angels doing? Your superiors, what are they doing? Your own family members. They're going crazy about Hashem. And you're going crazy about something. You're roaring for food and they're roaring for godliness. They're also lions and oxen, but they're not hungry for food, they're hungry for lakus. So it's not going against your family trend, family routine, family tradition to go away from, to start enjoying godliness. That's what angels do. Kodesh, 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 harash, godol, they're screaming. So therefore, the animal soul says, okay, you got me. Now I'm game. Thank God we got him out of the picture. He's not distracting anymore. Now we can focus on Shema Yisrael, which is talking to our Nefesh Elokis. What does the word Yisrael mean? Besides meaning Israel, it also has two words, Li Rosh. What Hashem says about the Jewish people, you are my head. You are my head. Yisrael, Li Rosh, the same letters, rearranged. There's Yaakov, which is the Akef, but Yisrael is Li Rosh. The Jews are not just a head of the world, of the head of the world, they are Hashem's head, meaning they have the power to see the world from Hashem's vantage point. That a Jew is able to see the world like Hashem sees, and understand the degree of bittul, of self-abnegation, of not existence, the way Hashem perceives our existence from his vantage point, even though we're human beings. But mitzad our neshama, the Yisrael, shema, listen, hear, contemplate. Yisrael, nefesh l'kis. Now you have the nefesh Bahamas out of the picture, not completely out of the picture. In fact, he's involved. Now he's also loving Hashem in his own animalistic way. Now you have no distractions. Now we can focus on your connection, your godly connection to Hashem. That's Shema Yisrael. So all this is part of a davening, and it's all important to think about these things, but put it into words. Say the words. With the unity of godliness, what is that? There's Yichud Ilah. You ever hear this language? Yichud Ilah and Yichud Hata. There's the Yichud of Hashem, how Hashem is, we are one with him from Hashem's perspective. That's called Yichud Ilah, how Hashem views the world. So it's not Yesh Me'ayin. We're the Ayin. He's the Yesh. L'mayla l'mata. Everything is God. There's a world? What's that? Prove it. Then there's Milmata l'mayla. We're here. There's a God? Prove it. Where? How? Where do you? So it's looking at Hashem from the vantage point of a human being. That's called Yichud Tata, looking at Hashem from our perspective. Both of them, these two perspectives, it's not one is false, one is true. They're both true on different levels. Giving an example, it's not a good example, but somewhat of an example. You have a glass of water in a red cup. So it looks red. You go like that, not red, it has no color. It's red, not red. Now, if I were to say it's false that it looks red. No, it's not false. It's true that it looks red. It's not red, but it's true that it's supposed to look. If you can't see red, all you see is the color of it. You see over here, you're colorblind. You don't want to not see the red. You're supposed to see it looks red. It's supposed to look red. That's also truth. So the very fact that we feel our existence as independent of God is also a creation. The two levels of truth. Truth that Hashem created, our perceived reality, and then the real reality. Yichud Elah is the real reality from Hashem's purview. And then there's our look from the Mata L'mayla, that's Yichud Tata. Tata means Tachat. Yichud Hashem, Kemo Shemuvan, Al Yedei HaTachton. Mitachton El Elyon. And then there's Milmayla L'mata. So we're going from Yesh to Ayin. In other words, Hashem is the ultimate Yesh, and we're the real nothing. Or, no, we're the Yesh. And we figure out we couldn't have come from, we had to have some, where did he come from? Where's our beginning? We're limited. There has to be something that has no limit. So there has to be some nothingness that we can't perceive that made us. In fact, studying, analyzing the flaws of our existence forces us to say that we couldn't have created ourselves. There had to have been something above the rules of, the rules of Gashmias, because Gashmias is so flawed, it's so limited. It's composite of different elements, so it has to be something that puts it and brings it together. That's God. So you reach God's existence through analyzing the world. And there's the other way around. You realize there's a world from God's perspective. How do I know the world exists? Pasuk and Chumash. It's a Torah world. How much do I believe in the world? As much as Torah allows for it. I have no belief in the world unless Hashem says there is a world. That's the Jewish way of looking at things. So Shema Yisrael, we're on the level of Yichud Elah. But when you're on that level, it's hard to have Ahavas Hashem because you're too close. It's like you're loving yourself. So he said, okay, Baruch Shem, let's come down. He said Baruch Shem before. Frog. Baruch Shem Kavay Machos Le'elvod says in Chassidus that Echad and Va'ed both end with a Daled. Except one is a gigantic Daled, one's a regular sized Daled. The Aleph and the Ches of Echad are interchangeable with the Vav and the Ayin of Va'ed. There's certain letters that have that companionship. The Aleph and the Vav and the Ches and the Ayin are connected. I'm not going to get into the reason how they're connected. The ches of the ayin is easy. They both come from the same guttural sound, ches and ayin. There's also a connection between aleph and vav. So aleph and vav, aleph is changed into a vav, the ches becomes an ayin, and the dalet is the same dalet, but it shrinks. It's understanding Hashem's oneness on a lower plane. You got to go down to earth again and feel Hashem from a distance in order to love him. If you're too close to him, you can't love him anymore. You lose track of self-expression. That's the mitzvah. We want to love Hashem with all our heart and with both souls. So we have to go down. Anyway, let's go further in the Maimer. The Hamakas Hadas. Hamakas Hadas means delving deep with the midah, with the power of Das. Das is more than Bina. Das is something that you relate to. You can understand some things, but it's not so relatable. Das is, I know it, like I know myself. Yes, I relate to that. So that's what you need in order to get any kind of feeling in the heart, a love and a fear of Hashem. What triggers that love and fear is Das. Bina will not do the story. Bina is a good beginning. Bina is understanding. Das is called the key that opens up all the 6 midos. It's the key that opens the door between intellect and emotions. Das opens that door. Mafteach, the kol shis. The mafteach, the key, that's comprised of 6 emotional attributes that come later. So, Bahamakas Hadas, Meir Ha'or Liki Benafshe, the godly light that's no longer camouflaged and hidden with intellect seems to surface. And you are moved with a feeling of love and fear that you never had before, only because you spoke. No, I'm sorry, I'm my mistake. You have it even before you speak, but when you actually speak, it flares up to a different level. The elikus is much more pronounced than the hasaga, than the understanding of elikus. The actual godly experience shows its face, and it also has a much more powerful impact on you. 2 things, as we said last time. But look at the next paragraph. Hine on Arayim in English. Now we see that when he later, after all this meditation, when he utters the words of prayer that embodies the above meditations and concepts, in Hebrew, that they know carry or embody the kavana, the meditation and the concepts that were mentioned before. So in the English, he says further, it causes the godly light to shine within him far more than it does during the meditation that precedes it. Meir etzlei ha'or eliki harbe yoser mi behakavana v'ha'izbayinu shekaydim lozed. Shines much more than it would shine prior to your verbalizing it. And number 2, besides the fact that it's much more godly, the experience is also more powerful. 2 things. The material that you're experiencing is deeper, and the way you're experiencing it is also more profound. 2 things. You understand what I'm saying? Higher level of experience, higher quality of elikus, more direct, and it also affects you in a more profound way. You're more moved, and there's much more fervor and passion than you would normally have had you not uttered those words. He becomes very animated, and his fervor far exceeds the previous excitement produced by his meditation and intellectual understanding. Behainu, in other words, in the last two lines of this paragraph, Shebahadibur, in the words, Meir etzlei ho'atzmius upnimius ha'or eliki, the very essential light of godliness that's embodied that embodies the actual thought that you have. So, it's not so much come to the forefront, not so open and so obvious when you just had meditation without saying any words. The body, the words are bodies, and it puts more clarity. It's much more profound and real when you actually utter the words than when they're just in your mind. Now, He says further, as I said before, you have to first have thought. You can't rely on the words. You have to words come later. At first, the order is first you got to work on meditating, and that could be the answer of concentrating and secluding yourself for a while. Going into seclusion. I can't concentrate when I'm talking. I got to keep my mind shut, keep my mouth shut, concentrate, and then focus on the deep thoughts that I have. While you're doing that, you can't speak. It doesn't work. But once you have that, now I have the material. Now let's bring it out. Yeah.
But the davening is so long.
What are you complaining about? We daven longer than you.
What?
The men daven longer than the women.
What?
The men daven longer. We have more.
Why?
You daven the whole davening?
Davening time? Yeah. Sure.
You know. Daven Mamar Yom Tov? Mamar Yom Tov? Everyone does? No. You're special. I have no. It's very long. Okay, so.
So how you concentrate on that?
Why not?
איך עושים מדיטייט לפני, זה לוקח שעתיים.
Why should time?
אנחנו לא בחורים.
Okay, so we'll get there. He says that for those that are not able to concentrate on meditating, especially for long meditation, we'll soon see. Yeah, so you need first to have that. The below there, if you don't have any thoughts before, there's no chayis. Your words are dead words. It's not called dibur. Without thoughts, dibur is not called dibur. The below there, without meditating, ein loy chayis b'ha'oisius v'ha'tevos. But after you've succeeded in the hisbonenus, meir be'etzem dibur ha'tevos, in the very words themselves, causes there's much more of a light of an enlightenment that you would have just contemplating in your mind. And then he says something else. The experience, the davening experience you had will last much longer also. Just keep it up here. You might be on fire while you're davening. We're talking about people that are on a certain madrega. I'm not part of this. I'm talking about, don't get any kind of thoughts that I know what he's talking about. I know what he's not talking about. I know how I daven, and it's no secret. Most of us don't daven properly. But what I want to say is that when you do have this ability to meditate, it's not just while it's happening, it lasts. It has it's engraved, nechkak, you feel it a week later. It stays with you much longer than if you just keep it in your mind. Even if you had success, this meditation was wow, it wowed me. Yeah, but it's makish. It doesn't penetrate. When you speak, you can put these words into containers. You're also containing the experience for a longer time. The light is also engraved. Besides being a deeper light, whatever you have is also engraved and perceived by his soul in a much greater way, in a much more lasting way. It affects your daily life also. It also impacts what you will do, what you will not do throughout the day. It changes the person. What about if you can't meditate, like most of us? We don't have enough time and enough thoughts, enough yidiot. Let's go weiter. Gam b'dibur b'teves hatfila. The li is bonus hakodemet. Without the elaborate meditation that precedes the words of davening. Ba'arichot ha'asaga ha'lekis. You don't have that ability. You didn't learn enough chassidus, and your neshama maybe is not on that level to really meditate to that degree. Ki im b'kitzur. All you're able to do is just very short. Yeah, I have a few. I learned one mimer here. I remember interesting way of translating this part of davening. I'll give you an example in a second. All you know is basically translation of the words. I know what I'm saying. Baruch, Atah, Hashem. Ani choshev. I'm thinking about what I'm saying. That's also not so easy, by the way, because our mind seems to, the ADHD generation. We don't have the ability to concentrate too long. My father, by the way, he had the opposite of ADD. I don't know what you call that.
What?
He had the opposite of attention deficit disorder. He could think for hours and hours and hours on one thought without stopping. Not one track minded. He was multi-track minded, but every track he would have to concentrate without getting distracted for a very long time. Hours. My father. Can't hear you. What? Not sort of. Well, no. I mean, what you call his bonus means he would close his office door, sit in the room alone. Yeah, like that he would do. I don't know what's called. His bonus or his bonanut. Big difference. Seclusion is his bonanut. His bonanut means meditation. I don't know about that. I just know that he sat and thought, learning-wise, not davening-wise, learning-wise, able to sit and focus on a thought for many, many hours. I experienced that with him, learning with him. Mamish, tremendous concentration on one thought. Okay. So he says like this, even if you can't, it also counts. As long as you are saying the words and you know what you're saying, you can read and understand what you're saying, especially if you know a little bit more than just that. You know a few interesting Mamar you might have learned over the years, and you remember, I remember this translation. I'll never forget this. I'll give you an example. There's so many examples, but I'll give you one example. In the Shemon Esrei, Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed. What does that mean? God, Mechalkel, Mazeh, sustains, feeds us. Chaim gives us life, and he does that with Chesed, out of generosity. Simple meaning. No, it means much, much more. Mechalkel zeh keli b'toch keli. Kal. Hashem doesn't have to, see, by a human being, if I have kindness in my heart, that's not going to give you anything. It's a cause for me to want to give you a donation, but you're not getting anything from my kindness. My kindness stays in my heart. Through my kindness, I decide to give you either a donation of money or food or Torah learning or whatever. But the actual kindness cannot go out, leave me. It stays in me. By Hashem, his chesed, zeu ha'chaim shalom. Lo rak gorem. It's not just it causes life, it is life. But the problem is, here's the problem. It's so intense, so much light, that we can't take it. So Hashem takes the chesed and puts it into a keli, and to another keli, goes through a funnel, and now we can take it. Mechalkel, yeah. But like a small keli. Different vessels of tzimtzumim. And that, but the source of our chayis is the chesed of Hashem. Not that the chesed is the cause for our chayis, it itself is the chayis. But it goes through a changeover through many, many kelim. Think about that. The chalkel chayim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, hachayim shalonu, ze hachesed shalo, al yidei tzimtzumim, kalkel, mechalkel, kelim achakelim. This. Yeah. A lot of places. You always ask these kind of questions. I don't have the exact.
Right.
Where does it say by Daber Hashem and Moshe Lemor?
What?
Where doesn't it say that? Efo katuv by Daber Hashem and Moshe Lemor? Almost everywhere. Yeah. I'll tell you where it says it's a mime that I remember in Tov Shel Rosh, I think it's Rosh Hashana. First mimer and from the previous Rebbe, I think, I'm not mistaken. Okay, now, there are other examples also. I'll give you another example too. You shall remember that God is, Hashem is Elohim. What does that mean? God is in control. Oh, so deep. No, it means the power of God's revealing himself and the power of him hiding himself. The hiding is also godly. It's like you can't put your hand over your head. Boy, I'm talking about men. You have to have a hair covering to say a bracha. How about I put my hand over my head? I have no yarmulke, but I put my hand over my head, it won't work. Because you're covering yourself with yourself. You can't cover yourself with yourself. Your hand, someone else's hand, I can use as a cover. instead of my yarmulke. But I can't use my own hand. But I can't use my own hand.
Walking down the street together.
The yarmulke goes off.
Ein etzem master al etzem. One part of etzem cannot cover another part. It's the same you. Elikim is a gamkin elokut. Or another example is given in Chassidus. A rabbi, a rav, gives a mashal because he has a student that doesn't understand what he's saying, so he has to give a mashal. Who created the mashal? The rav. Now, for the student, the mashal sort of hides the depth of the nimshal. The nimshal is the analog. The mashal is the analogy. The kid just sees the mashal, doesn't realize how deep. But how about the teacher? For him, the mashal doesn't hide. He created the mashal. He's the producer of that mashal. Hashem produces tzimtzum. Zelo b'shvilo, zelo mastir b'shvilo. Hashem hu Elokim. Hakoach shemegaleh v'hakoach shemastir zot hakoach. The power, that's deeper than saying, God is in control. Hashem hu Elokim. You understand what I'm saying? So somebody learns Chassidus, oh, I remember Linda Maimer. That's good enough. That must be.
Not enough.
There are other examples, a lot of other examples too. I can go through a lot of parts of davening and give you a little bit of flavor of Shamar and Ashrei and Mishtabach and so on and so forth. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Because he's ours, that's how he controls the world. Because first he's our God. Hashem rules the world vis-a-vis the Jewish people. We are the brain of the world, and Hashem first gives chayes to the world through Bnei Yisrael. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, Gam Le'olam, L'moto Olam. You know, there's so many examples. You keep on going and going and going. You can go on and on and on with nice little vertelach. It's not the longest Bainunus meditation, but it's a nice little, nice insight. That can also, just with the Pirush Hamilot, and that must speak. Not as good as if you have meditation. You can't, I don't want to fool you and make you think it's as good as meditation, but it's better, a lot better, not only than having no ideas, it's better than all the meditation without dibur. In other words, if you have a Pirush Hamilot with a little bit of understanding, insight from Chassidus, and you put it into words, you'll reach a higher madrega of Elokus than with all the meditation without the dibur. So you're on a better off with not having arichotay bananut, but you put it into words, and the person who just has arichotay bananut and doesn't put it into words. But if you have arichotay bananut and words, oh wow, then you're mamish in a different world altogether. Okay. Oh wow, so late already. Time flies. Let's just finish this paragraph. I need to finish it. I'm sorry. I skipped. The first line on the page 35. And especially if you know a little bit more than just the translation of the words. You have a kavanah pnimi, is a deeper meaning. You gain more in terms of having a divine experience than you would have if you would just suffice with his Hisbonenus, even though the Hisbonenus is a lot deeper than what you can have. Because you put it into words, the word will carry you to a place that the greatest meditator won't be able to go without speaking. Obviously, if you can do both, then you have much more. The next part of the Maimon is going to, I'm just going to tell you, the next part of the Maimon is going to add one more point. The koil, the sound of your voice. You all know koil ma'ira kavana. On Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur, we're allowed to daven Shemona Esrei out loud. Throughout the year, you're not supposed to. But during Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur, there is a heter to daven even Shemona Esrei loud. And the reason for that is because koil ba'oira hakavana. Since throughout the year, when you daven out loud, you're distracting people. People can't. Rosh Hashana, everyone's on fire, so we're not worried about that. And since the koil is ma'orer, it arouses a deeper kavana than you would have without sounding your voice. So this war, you're allowed to daven Rosh Hashana out loud. Halacha. Says the Maimer, just like Dibur enhances Seichel and enhances Midrash and enhances your davening, it also enhances Mosif of the power of Koil. But we know that Koil Ma'oreh HaKavanah. But when the Koil is put into words, the words with the coil together will give a new life force to that coil that would not have without dibur. You sing, let's say, you're just singing a song. You're singing. Beli dibur. That's not going to do the same trick as the sounding of your voice, which is also related to part of a dibur. There's two parts of dibur: the content, the form, and then there's the breath you take coming out of your mouth. The sound, your vocal cords. It's called the body of speech. The speech has a body and a soul. The soul is, the content, what you're saying, and then there's the voice, the sound. That's the body of the speech. That also is affected by dibur. So you want the coil to really do its job? Put that sound, loud, loud, but with feeling. And the fact you're using words with the sound together, the words enhance the power of the sound. The question is, why does it all happen? We haven't answered that yet. How far we're going to get, I don't know, but we'll try to answer that hopefully for the end of the song. Back to your copies, please.
Photos of it to my
What?
sister. I took photos of it to send
Yeah,
to
sure.